Thank you very much. I think we are the lucky group of people during the last station and the last day of the event. So, but still, I believe we are the most interesting event because everyone here needs a job in the future. So we're going to talk about the future of jobs, the future of work. So let me introduce my panel first and start the debate. So I have Deb Piravula, CEO of ʻjobʼ and Joint Director of Electronics of Government of Telangana. I have Vasudeva Varma, Professor and Dean, IIT Hyderabad. I have P. Anandan, CEO, Wadhwani AI. And I also have Pradeep Yamiyar, Professor, Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. So I will be moderating the panel, but I will ask fellow panelists to share their opinions. But before that, I would like to also introduce myself. My name is Jake Sidar. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and I'm running a knowledge-sharing platform covered by robotic process automation, data analytics, and human judgment. So I believe I'm a practitioner in the sector, so I'm not coming from academia. I was learning a lot being at this event and learning about different aspects of AI. But I will be sharing a few things about the trends that I've been seeing and how the jobs and work will be reimagined, and how we should reimagine and how we need to prepare ourselves for the future. So, as I've mentioned, I'm a big believer of future of work. I'm running a future of work platform. I think it has advantages and disadvantages. But AI combined with future of work also creates its own challenges and opportunities for different segments in society. I think participants yesterday compared the current transformation that we've been experiencing with the previous transformations, such as industrial revolution or for mass production, the IT revolution, the communication revolution. But I think it's important to, I think we should not make a mistake, and we should be careful analyzing the current transformation very wisely, because the current AI revolution is directly challenging the human judgment of human by creating cognitive skills, not just repetitive tasks that was created by previous transformations. So I think it's very important to understand the dynamics of the current transformation and understand that probably we will be working alongside the machines for a while. And so it's going to be human-machine collaboration defining the future of work. And that would reimagine work. That's why we need more fusion skills that would help human to work with machines. And AI would be, maybe a tool that will be augmenting human judgment in different ways. So saying that, also future of work platforms are run through algorithms. And algorithms are not always fair. We talk about the biases, we talk about who sets algorithms. So algorithms will decide, who will be matching with the jobs. Imagine an Uber driver that driving Uber, he or she gets, matches on Uber platform depending on so many factors, including the driver's background, the ratings the driver received from different users, even the battery level of the driver impacts the chances that the driver will be getting his or her next assignment, Uber assignment. So algorithms may be the new monopoly in the future of work, because algorithms are basically deciding who will be matching with the jobs. So having said that, I would like to start the panel with Vasu, and I would like to ask everyone, starting with Vasu, to share 2 to 3 minutes opinions on the subject, and then we can have a little time for the audience questions.
Thank you. Usually every event ends with cultural program, entertainment. We thought this will be the entertainment for the. Okay, so I wanted to actually all of you to take home 2 things. One is a straight line, second one triangle. The straight line part is this. When you're actually looking at AI, what it's going to do to workforce, there is one end of the spectrum which talks about singularity theory, where everything is going to end, the human race is going to be vanished, Now AI is going to do things better for us. It's going to improve our quality of life. It's going to take away our boredom, our routine, and then it's going to make us enjoy our drink on beaches while it's actually doing all the crunching, where I don't have to do any of those routine, boring things which I don't want to do, and I'll do only those which I enjoy doing. Right? So these are the two views. And then I would like to place myself somewhere closer to the right side, where AI is going to kind of make our lives better, but not so much away from the middle layer. There is a skepticism as people are talking about. So that's the straight line part that I wanted to talk about, and that's where actually kind of brings us the possibility of those concepts like UBI, universal basic income, automation taxes, things of that kind. Then the second thing that I want you to take away is that triangle, which is actually in the form of a pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid, we have all the people with low skills, and then they're actually now working for algorithms. People used to work for corporations before. Now the Swiggy's, Uber's, Ola's, these are the algorithms for which all this large the workforce is working. And then these are the largest employers, actually, if you see today, in terms of number of jobs that are being created. And the nature of these jobs are also changing. So that's at the bottom of the pyramid. And then at the top of the pyramid, we have these very high skills people who are sort of creating the AI making AI. These are the people who are making the AI making AI. Right? So they will always be there. And then their position, as also presented in the report before, that is relatively safer. At least that's what I want to believe at this point in time. But then between these two, there's a huge, very large middle layer where a large workforce with mediocre skills is actually thriving as a middle class part of the society. And then many of these people actually got new opportunities because of all the industrial revolutions before. And then these are the people with average skills and then a certain level of mediocrity that is built into what they do. But then now that not just the blue collar jobs, even the white collar jobs are a danger. As you know, the best, the world beaters in even intelligent games like chess and all these are actually the computer programs, and then the best, perhaps the neurosurgeons or people who actually can diagnose the diseases are actually robots and so on. So even the musicians and the poets and the newspaper reporters, all of them can actually become computer algorithms in the future, and then we've been hearing about all those. So it's not that there is, these, at least if you are actually looking at this middle layer again into two parts. One, that is primarily driven by the left brain, okay, which essentially where humans need not apply, because machines will always do a much better job. And then the other side, where actually you have the right brain activities, where you're looking at like anything that involves human touch, including therapists, including people who actually talk to you, and all those skills that we have learned at kindergarten, those actually become more important because those are the ones that help keep humans as humans, like sharing and empathy, giving comfort through various the very human means. And these are the aspects that will again separate these two levels. So on one side, automate the testers, the low-level coders, and then the radiologists, their jobs may be a danger, are increasingly being automated, but then those will be actually taking over in terms of human touch. They essentially can live longer, and then their jobs are a little more secure. So in actually doing all this, there is AI that can touch and change every part of this spectrum, not just the low end, not just the middle, but even the higher level. right? So this AI that will help with what we call as precision skilling. Yesterday somebody is talking about precision medicine, talking about precision skilling, where personalized skilling, personalized knowledge acquisition can help at various levels. For example, we've been, IIT Hyderabad is working very closely with Microsoft now in order to understand the driver behavior and trying to intervene and upskill them on job when they are driving the Ubers and Olas and so on. So the other side where the large industry workforce can also be upskilled with training on kind of AI or technology in general by offering courses. So again, IIT Hyderabad in collaboration with some other third-party kind of organizations is offering courses in AI and ML, and that has been actually taken very well because this is the need of the hour. So all the people who have a little bit of kind of the doubt about what their future of their job is going to be, there's always opportunity to upskill them and so on. And then the third part is the top of the pyramid is essentially about the need of researchers, and previous report also emphasized on the policy intervention and more incentives that can be given to people who actually make AI, build AI. Right? So that's on one side. So just to conclude, one other aspect that I want to bring in, at least in the context of India, the largest employment possibility is going to come from local languages. Now, we have ignored local language education because English has always been taught as an aspirational language or the key to the job opportunities and so on. But now this is going to be reversed because what we need now in the world of automation, AI, people with local language touch, and then the way to communicate and propagate message and then work in local languages is going to be a lot more. And that is what I see to be one of the major roles where AI can play in bringing back the local language expertise to the workforce of the country.
Thank
so
you.
I'll stop here.
Thank you. And a fun fact, 3 million drivers work for Uber globally. 3 million. So you mentioned that it's one of the largest employers, and 3 million is a global number. So I'm turning deputy, please. Please, 3 minutes. Then we have some time for the questions afterwards.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aura, and Lindy for having me here. So I've been listening to this conversations over the past 2 days, and it's been really very enlightening. And I wanted to just speak about how we look at skilling and employability from a state government angle, because Neeti is already here and they're doing a lot of amazing stuff already. So to start out with a simplistic view, kind of, is that when you think about, let's talk about industrialization, industrial revolutions. When you think about Industrial Revolution 1.0, at that point in time, people realized the power of steam, how they could actually, come in and work with, steam power looms. How do we do that? And that is when they actually learned the skills on the job, right? Then we come to the industrialization 2.0, where you had factories which needed people to come in and kind of like do the work for them, and the companies took the onus of training the workers who came to them. So that's when we have the concept of the entire apprenticeship that came about. And when you come to the industrialization 3.0, that's when let's start about there was all these, if we call them the bodies like the TCS, the skilling agencies. The consultancies took a lot of the onus of skilling the employees, and then the structured training, the structured skilling, everything actually moved from the corporates to the companies who are in the middle, who are going to train the employees who are working for the companies. And now we come to this industrialization 4.0, we talk about AI and all these technologies. Now the onus of skilling and being on par for being employable the onus is back to the individual now. And that is what we are looking at in our government of Telangana. So what we are actually trying to do is that we want to create this generation of students who are graduating from colleges and schools to actually have the knowledge and the foundation that they can upskill themselves, and we prepare them in a way that they are ready to take on what the AI the future of the AI is going to bring, right? So what we're actually doing in that angle is, today if you look at it, India actually produces about 8 lakh engineers every year, and our economy is about $2.53 trillion. And the US actually produces maybe 300K engineers per year, and their size is about $20 trillion. And if you look at it, we have a large quantity of engineers who are actually there, and they are available in the marketplace. But the problem is that the quantity is a lot, but the quality of the engineers that are coming out of the colleges are not up to par to compete in a global marketplace. So keeping that in mind, in our state of Telangana, what we've actually done is, we had 440 colleges, engineering colleges in our state in 2014. And the first thing we actually did is, we actually did review each of these colleges and the kind of facilities that they had in the colleges, the kind of faculty that they had, the kind of training they were giving, and the quality of the engineers they were able to put out. So we kind of worked on that, and we de-rostered, so to speak, about 120 colleges, and now the number of engineering colleges that we have are close to 290. And we are working on making sure that, you know, all these colleges adhere to quality standards, and, you know, they actually have graduating students who are able to compete in a global marketplace. That is the first thing that we've actually done. And the second thing that we are looking at is also doing a lot more of the faculty training programs, because if we don't have faculty who are aware of what is actually going on today in the revolution, the technological revolution that is going on, then they cannot impart what is actually going on to the students that they spend 8 to 10 hours of the day with. So we are working very actively with corporates to come up with faculty development programs. We've partnered with Samsung, we've partnered with Microsoft, we've partnered with many other corporates to kind of come up with faculty development programs, and AMD as well, wherein they come in and they train the faculty on how to train the students on the platforms that they're actually doing. So these are 2 steps that we are actively looking at to make sure that, you know, we create a workforce who's actually ready to take on the challenges and the kind of skill set that is required, and that is brought on by the advent of AI in every sphere of, like, you know, the work today. Thanks.
Thank you, Leslie. And Ananda, you work on social good and AI, so what is your perspective on
Okay. You know, being in the last session at 6 something on a Friday evening, there are 3 rules that I'm supposed to follow, but I'm probably going to fail on all of them. First is to be short. I'm not used to that. The second is to say something exciting and controversial. That's going to be challenging at this time. And the third is to be entertaining, which I'm not capable of. So you are in for something boring. But I'm actually going to go take a sort of a perspective from long into the future to kind of come back to today in 3 stages. So the first thing is, you know, we all talked about future of work replacing jobs with machines, so none of us have to work. I would love to be in a situation that I don't have to work. I can just hang out on the beach, take my universal basic income or whatever. I know the reality is not going to be like this. There's going to be, you know, haves and have-nots have always been. But you know, the truth is, if in fact, why is that important? If it is the case that the services that we take for granted in everyday life, even, you know, skill service that a doctor or somebody could provide, if it can be provided by an AI, as a person who's consuming that service, would you not want that? So the conflict is not really between AI and non-AI, it's really about what we want as people who consume the products or the work that other people are doing, and the opportunity to the work and make a living. Now, jobs in itself, I don't think is a great thing to have. There may be something called the work ethic, but why do we actually work? I mean, before Industrial Revolution, you know, people did some work, people attended farms and probably had many months in a year where they were not doing something. Well, Industrial Revolution, you know, created a lot of opportunity, population explosion and such, but what did it do? At the end of the day, many people were reduced to factory workers, which were really assembly line workers. I mean, the greatest success of Industrial Revolution is the assembly line, doing routine, mundane jobs, which are extremely tedious. They were all looking for going home at the end of the day and having their scotch, which I wish we had now. But you know, so it's not actually a great thing to celebrate, that thing that we are going to lose In fact, Wendell yesterday talked about the fact that when the truck drivers all get replaced, they're going to line up in the highways and take out their guns. This is a peculiar American problem. I think they should just have gun control. I doubt very much in Europe or India this is going to happen. But the point is, yes, jobs are going to go away. Why are they going to go away? Not because AI is some evil thing, but because we, as people who consume the product of this work, are hungry for greater quality work at greater efficiency, which if machines can do it better, we're going to choose that. Whether you like AI or not, we're going to choose that. And in fact, this case in point is that already in industrialized countries, many of the jobs have moved to other less developed countries, and the social consequences of that are already visible. So what we're going to see is probably at a bigger scale than what we are seeing now, but this is a social problem, not an AI problem. Right? So we're not going to be able to stop AI, not because the social problem is not important, but because we are hungry for the product of those benefits of those things. So this is a problem the world is going to deal with, and it's going to come into a certain amount of crisis. But if you're going to get a healthcare worker at the front line, being able to do better healthcare to the millions of people. I mean, the numbers in India are staggering. We have 900 million people who don't get proper healthcare, and we have 30,000 doctors. If we can actually take that capacity to the front end, are you going to say that's not a good thing? I mean, this is, forget about luxury things, even basic things, needs that are not met can actually be augmented by this technology, and when that comes, I'm sure you'll be lining up to get it and take it, right? So the problem will persist. I think it's not something that is going to make a difference to AI. I think it's something we have to figure out, maybe through universal basic income or whatever, but I'm not that optimistic. I'm not as bad as Madhusudan. I don't think we're all going to, we should all be replaced by machines for a better society, but it's just a thing that we're going to have to grapple with at bigger scale than we did before. In India, there are enough clever politicians to take advantage of that, so whatever. But, so in the intermediate, term, I do think that we're going to not reach that great state of, everything somehow peace, universal basic income, all of us are hanging out on the beach, robots doing everything for us, and then maybe we are working in restaurants as waiters because we want the human touch. Of course, robots can probably look like humans too. But now, but it's going to be much more disruptive. I think there's going to be a bad period for a long time. We just have to figure out how to deal with it. I want to come to the near term though. I mean, this is all about general jobs, but who's going to build this AI? So when I'm thinking about India, which is where my focus is currently, we actually don't have the capacity to do this right now. We think that it's going to happen, but we are very far from having the capacity to do that. In any technology domain, there are like broadly three categories of jobs, right? The innovators, who are trying to invent the new technology and shape the future. The engineers who are going to build services and solutions based on that technology. I mean, I'm not saying the engineers don't innovate. In India, we make sure that they don't. But in general, they might. But by and large, it's a little bit different. And then the technicians, we're going to fix your electricity, electric bulbs or something of that sort, and we're going to continue to need them. That three categories is not that different in the AI domain. We're still going to need AI innovators. We're going to develop new types of, cognitive AI or whatever. And we're going to need AI engineers who are going to build AI-based solutions and services to, an infinite number of capable possibilities. And then AI technicians, data creation, data curation, data management, applying, training the machine learning model by properly feeding. There's a whole lot of things to do. I mean, we are not producing enough we're not producing enough quality engineers, as Deepthi said. I think I read somewhere that 18% of engineering graduates from Indian engineering colleges are employable. And we're going to transform all of them to data scientists and engineers, and we're probably going to get 5% or something unless we do something about it. So there's a lot to do in the near future. We're going to worry about the long-term future, but let's focus on the near future.
I'm sure someone's gonna enjoy the beach, but if you own those robots, maybe people will be enjoying, but otherwise people will be suffering. Great overview. Thank you very much. So, Pradeep, what type of skill sets should we acquire ourselves and our kids to survive in the job market, in this marketplace?
As someone like me who's currently involved in creating human resource capacity in ICT, the last 2 days that I've been listening, I was wondering if someone comes up from the industry and asks, okay, now give us the next AI man or woman we want. So who should a professor admit and look at? What should be the curriculum? If you look at what was all discussed, then it starts from being a legal person expert to an ethical person expert to a blockchain expert. The requirements are very, very tall and rather confusing. So, you see, one of the questions that I was asked to the panel was, can context and country-specific quantitative models be built to analyze the impact of AI on employment? I was just looking at the word quantitative. I was wondering why qualitative models is not mentioned. Now, if you look at what is currently happening in engineering education, is just informal. What happens to those other so-called non-employable engineers? I think we are losing a large potential to frame correct curriculum and to choose the correct way of teaching and training. Retraining is a very big issue now for us. To make India AI for all dream come true, we have very, very little time. So I am involved in a small experiment at IIT Guwahati where we run what is called as a BDES program. I train user experience designers, I train UI experts, I train students to create ICT products from scratch for Indian needs. And this is where we also come across what should one do when one comes to answering questions of incorporating AI. How much? What sort? So the same question, same debate goes on. In one of the projects that we were doing, we were trying to make study of electronics for first year electronics student easier. There are no labs, there are many equipment missing in so many engineering colleges, and there are no teachers left. So we were trying to build in some automation and AI into a breadboard so that the student can be helped. My research has been turned around and with a very, he said, sir, whose intelligence should be put into this board? I said, what? He said, no sir, either the professors or should we put the students' intelligence? Actually, I missed the point then, but then he had raised a very pertinent question for Indian engineering education. Anyway, coming to what I had to say. STEM, S-T-E-M, that is science, technology, engineering and mathematics. This has been our foundation for education, technical education. And even at IITs, we are realizing that it is not anymore valid, that we have started schools in medicine, we have started schools in legal studies also at IIT. So, what is required to expand and create the workforce required for AI is larger quantity of what we call arts or social sciences. Engineers have to be taught this, how we can teach it within the 4 year or 6 years we have is a challenge to us. But without that, I don't think we will be able to create those sensitive technical personnel, whether be at the top level or the bottom level, as what there are 3 or 4 levels identified here, and we require drastic change in curriculum. Now, the one more advantage of STEAM is that it will open doors for a large section of women resources in this country. You see, AI is full of what I call as tacit knowledge, from which insights have to come out to write those algorithms. And where is this knowledge repository? It is actually in culture, in people who are very close to it, who live it. And so therefore, if we adopt STEAM and we add a design to it, if you like, then we may perhaps also have a larger, useful, productive workforce and provide those opportunities, especially for women who are extremely intelligent and whose contribution cannot be undermined in AI especially. Thank you.